about the two paragraphs of this particular editorial, right? So I'm making you understand things from English to English only, right? I'm reading the things in English, okay, and I'm just trying to simplify things in English in order to just help the Hindi medium aspirant. Just like Hindi medium aspirant can change their medium. All right, if you are changing your medium and preparing for the civil service examination in English medium, your chances will definitely increase of cracking exam, because reading comprehension in the CSAT and writing skills and study materials available and speaking in English, interview number means everything will get enhanced for sure, right? So it is just that you should not just get involved in kind of movements or Twitter or doing something else which is not healthy for you all guys, right? You should just start understanding things in English only, right? So here we have understood, we have completed from here up to cantankerous members, those people who are stubborn, those people who fight, those people who quarrel each other, right? So this is how we understood. If you really want to understand this paragraph and this paragraphs, go to the first part of this particular editorial discussion video, right? So here we are going to move to this particular paragraph, right? So fast forward 3 decades to 2023. Fast forward to 3 decades to 2023. So here the meaning of the fast forward 3 decades to 2023. So that means 1991 to 2000 and 2001 to 2010 and 2010 to 2020. So it becomes like 3 decades, right? So fast forward to 3 decades. So from 1991 to 2023. So what was the India's journey from 1991 to 2023? This is what we are going to read and understand and study in this particular paragraph, right? So here now we are going to talk about that India's foreign exchange reserves has grown. So earlier India's foreign exchange reserves were how much? See, here you can see India's foreign exchange reserves were 5.8 billion, and now India's foreign exchange reserves has grown to around 600 billion. 600 billion. See the jump. It is like 5 rupees and 600 rupees, right? See the huge jump, right? So right now, so that is why this particular editorial has been written, that dilemmas of India's great power ambition, right? So this particular editorial you can use in the form of essay, right? And you can just make your opinion, form your opinion, in order if somebody asks you in interview, at least you'd be able to tell some points, right? You can add somewhere, and this particular editorial will be definitely helping you, all the civil service aspirant who are starting, who have already started, right? So just read this particular editorial and take the screenshot of this particular editorial and understand this in a depth, right? Because this will take you through the India's journey from 1990, from actually 1947 to 1991 to 1991 to 2023, right? And all the current important international issues and the domestic issues in India, right? So everything will be talked about in this. And the person who has written, Mr. Happymon Jacob, right? So it is a very important name in the international politics, right? So he knows things very very well. And who is Jawaharlal Nehru University, जो भी Delhi में है, he is the teacher there, right? And he is also the founder of the Council for the Strategic and Defense Research, right? So he is very very important. So if you find guys the name of this person, this is a very great person, very intellectual person, a lot of respect to him, right? Every civil service aspirant who is actually preparing for the civil service examination and who has the political science and international relation, they must be completely aware of this person's stature and the kind of knowledge this person holds, right? So we should read these kind of editorials. They are definitely a mind churning, mind blowing kind of editorials, right? So here now we are going to study about the 2023, how India was, right? So India's foreign exchange reserves has grown to around $600 billion, right? So I am speaking English, just you try to understand that somebody is just talking to me in English, right? You just take things like this. You shouldn't like thinking what kind of word. Just understand the idea, just understand the central idea, just understand the meaning that I'm trying to convey to you all guys. All right, so India's foreign exchange reserves has grown to around 600 billion dollar. And how much it was? They were 5.8 billion. Like it is a difference, like if you had like 6 rupees or if you have 600 rupees. So what is the difference? Oh my god, this much huge difference. So India has also definitely, India has grown, right? And the war with Pakistan is not something like Indian leaders lose sleep over. Like what happened, like earlier when when the war was about to happen, or the kind of fear of war with Pakistan, so Indian politicians were very very feared, very very scared with this. But now the kind of situation that India are in, right, that India is in, that India should not worry about the Pakistan kind of state, that whether they would be able to attack us or not. They even can't think in their wildest of dreams to attack India, right? So that position means whatever the kind of fear that we had when we were in 1990s with respect to Pakistan, okay, that particular fear is now exchanged with or replaced with the China, because now we are threatened with the China. Okay, so that is why it is written where China has taken that place, though means the Pakistan used to hold that place earlier in 1991, but in 2022 we have the concerns with the China, right? And there is a general sense of foreign policy optimism. So general sense of foreign policy optimism means right now you see that India's stature, right? India has hold the actually the presidency recently of what kind of organization? You should comment in the box, right? Which particular organization India was called on to take the presidency of, right? Which is the very very important. Everyone should must know that, and comment in the box below if you really know that, right? So we are very optimistic, means we are very 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 actually very strong kind of thinking that yes, India will definitely grow in the foreign policy also, right? The reforms initiated in 1991. So 1991 reforms means privatization, globalization, and liberalization, right? So economic crisis was there, right? So it just healed the economic crisis that India was facing at that point in time, okay? And it led to the higher GDP growth also, right? So India's GDP growth has been higher since the 1991, and significant poverty reduction also happened. Means the poverty has gone down, so down, right? Most of the people has been uplifted from the poverty. Now they are doing really well, okay? So ranked as the world's fifth largest economy. So India is about to be ranked as the world fifth largest economy. Like India is the number five economy of the world, right? India's nominal GDP. So now what is the meaning of the nominal GDP? In a very simple way, if I make you understand, that if we are calculating the GDP, the gross domestic product of India, minus the inflation, okay, then it will be nominal GDP, and one GDP is the real GDP. So real GDP is takes into account the inflation also, right? So India's nominal GDP could soon touch about $4 trillion, $4 trillion, right? So these are the fact that one must know. We can use these things in editorials, like while writing the essays, everything we can use, right? And speaking also in interview also we can use, right? It has one of the largest militaries in the world. So India has one of the largest, like if like no 4 5 countries in the world who have the largest of the militaries, so India is one of them, right? India is one of them. World over 100 nuclear, and India has over 100 nuclear weapons also at that point in time. So see the strongness of India, right? The US is now one of India's closest friend, right? Here you could see that the relationship with India, that the relationship with India in yeah. So here it is written, like see in the first paragraph, where we can search that relationship with India was like not that much good with the United States in those times, right? I think it is here, somewhere you can find, so you can connect basically. It is, yeah, so strained relationships with the United States of America in 1991 of India we are talking about, right? And now here you can see the US is now one of the India's closest friends, right? And New Delhi enjoys strong relationship with several powerful states. So like all the powerful states, like China, Russia, right? Japan, Germany, France, United Kingdom, USA. So with these powerful countries, India has a very good relationship, right? The visionary investments made over the past several decades are now beginning to bear fruits with a permissive external atmosphere for the country's rise. So the investment, right? So in 1991, what kind of investment are we talking about? We are talking about the liberalization and globalization and privatization. So basically, economic reforms that we had done in 1991 are bearing the fruits now. Are bearing the fruits means the results of those reforms have beginning, means started to come, right? Started to come, and we are able to see, and that is why our stature in the world is growing very fast, right? So external affairs for the countries, right? So that is why India is rising, right? So India is also one of the pivotal swing powers of the contemporary international system. So contemporary international system means in today's time, like Russia and Ukraine war is happening, right? So what is the situation of India? India is expected to mediate between these two countries so that the war could come to an end. So this is the stature of India. So contemporary, like you and I, if both are preparing for the civil service, so we are contemporary to each other, right? Mahatma Gandhi ji and Subhash Chandra Bose were contemporary to each other, right? So you can understand, means those means actually two people who were living in the same time, right? So aaj ka, man, that means the present international system. So here you can replace this contemporary as the actually the present moment, right? So this particular moment, what is happening right now, right? So India is also one of the pivotal. So pivotal means most important swing parts, most important swing parts means if India starts mediating between the Russia and Ukraine, that it means with India's aid, right, or with India's mediation or intervention in this war, the war can be brought to an end, right? So this is the level of India's stature, right? So India is also one of the pivotal swing powers of the contemporary international system. So you can use this particular editorial in essay writing also, and in interview also you can shape your opinion, right? This is very helpful, right? And strategically located. So see the location of India. India is located like the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea, right? Arabian Sea. So near the Pakistan, and most important, strategically located. Why? Means see, if the US is helping India, or like in India, or doing all the good friendship with India, if France is doing the same thing, so everybody is annoying with the China, right? All the countries are completely annoyed or not interested in the China, so that is why they are supporting India. So India is situated basically near or just next door to China, so that is why India become very very important for the international players or the great powers, right, or the western or the wealthy countries of the world, right? So that is why India's location is also very very important here, right? So that is why India is rising and is going to play the role of a global power, right? So often playing both sides with great elan. So elan means enthusiasm, energy, a lot of vigor in yourself, a lot of actually positive energy that you have. So that's what they are playing. So that is why India is doing all these things, right? India is able to help also in the countries where the war is also happening. So India can go and give some kind of advices so that the war could be brought it down, right? And the location of India is also, so that is why India is very very enthusiastically playing this kind of situation, right? The great power politics. So the great power politics means like Russia and Ukraine war. So I am actually giving you this example because it is a recent example, right? And you can connect it with, right? So great power politics means what? Great powers politics means great powers are who? Who are the great powers? Russia, okay, and France, United Kingdoms, all the NATO players, almost, right, and United States of America. So these are called the great powers and great powers politics. So great power politics is happening where? Because this is the war between the Ukraine and the Russia, right? So what these great powers are doing? So that means they are doing their politics because they also have their interest, right, to shape the world, right? So that is what the great power politics around the Ukraine war, around the Ukraine war brought renewed focus on India's role in the world politics. So like you must be hearing in all the news as Aaj Tak or so many news that India is being expected, or the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is being expected, or actually called on, to help or to advise the Russia or or the Ukraine to bring the war to an end, right? So see India's situation here, right? The US and the wealthy West want India to be on their side. So United States of America, okay, and the wealthy West. Wealthy West means France, okay. Here the word meaning of the wealthy West is that if we talk about wealthy West, so wealthy West means France, United Kingdom, Germany, right? So these are the country which are the actually part of the NATO and which is actually dominated by the United States of America. So that is why it is called the wealthy West, right? So these countries means United States and these three, four wealthy West countries want India to be on their side, that they want that, okay, India should be our side, okay, India should be helping us, okay. Now here the and an embattled Russian Federation. Embattled means something which is into the war. So Russia is in the war with the Ukraine, right? So embattled Russian Federation is doing everything it can to ensure India does not turn its back on Moscow. So Russia is also doing everything for India. So Russia is also requesting India that India, please, you be on our side, you please help me, you not go to actually US side and all that, so that India could be there. So everybody is requesting India that India, please come to me, please come to me. We want your friendship, we want your friendship. Right? So this is the situation is happening in India. So that is why this particular editorial has been written, keeping in mind the context that India will definitely go and play the role of the global power, right? So here there are serious suggestions that India should mediate between Ukraine and Russia to bring an end to the war. So serious means actually somebody very well thought kind of decisions are being given to India that you please mediate. Please mediate means please go to Russia or bring or actually actually call to Russia or Ukraine and then say that, okay, please bring this war to an end and not to fight further and all that something, right? So India has that kind of station that people who are in the war, means the Russia and the Ukraine, would listen to India. So this is the power of India, right? So New Delhi increasingly uses the language of mediation in global crisis. Okay, mediation is the very important word here in this line. So New Delhi means India, increasingly means more and more uses the language of mediation in global crisis. So global crisis, example of the global crisis is Russia and Ukraine, right? Being a bridge between the north and south and east and west. So north and south, so actually north means all the developed countries, south means all the developing countries, like India comes in the south, right? And United States of America, and we can call Russia and United Kingdom, France, Germany, so they all come in the north, okay. And India, entire African continent and American continent, the Brazil, okay, the Yugoslavia, all these countries come into the south. And east and west, right? To east and west, so India is the west. Okay, India is the east and west is the United States and all the NATO powers, right? So what India is doing? India being a bridge between the north and south and east and west. So India is actually at the center of the entire world. So this is the meaning of entire the world politics. India is at the center. So that is why everybody is requesting India to play their role, right? So indirectly indicating that it is a major pole. Indirectly it is playing that, means without saying directly, indirectly it is means everybody is accepting that yes, it is a major pole in the world politics, right? It is the major pole. Like India is the pole star of the world politics in today's time. You can use this particular language, right? The pole star, Dhruv Tara, you must say. So it is the main part, right? Main part. Although tens of millions of people in India still live in poverty, right? Many lakh people are still poor in India. Like actually huge population of India is living in the poverty still. Okay, so the country's national power has increased dramatically, but the country's actually national power has increased, right? How it has increased? Now making it a force with system shaping capabilities. So system shaping capabilities means India was actually heading the G20, right? It got the presidency, right? So India has that kind of status in the world today. It is equipped with so many, like we talk about the demographic dividend India has, right? So India is a big market, right? So India is a very big market for the entire world. So entire world has to listen to what India is saying, right? So that they could do the business. So this is one example, right? So system shaping capability. So India has a lot of capacities these days, right? And good intentions also, right? Whether New Delhi is actually punching above its weight or not is something only time will tell, right? So here the meaning is that like everybody is actually showing so many things about India, so many good things about India. So is it really real or it is not that real, right? So punching above its weight means, like suppose if your weight is like 60 kg and if I ask you to hold a sack of 100 kg, you will collapse, right? So if you are able to manage that weight, if you are able to manage that weight well, so it means you are a real power, right? So that is what is being talked about, right? So other side of the great power story. Now here we talked about all the good things about India, right? From here, like from this paragraph, okay, from here to here to here, we have talked about good things about India, okay, all the good things. Now other side of this great power story. So here we talk about that how India is really a good great power, right? So these are the good things we have talked about. Now here we'll be talking about some kind of negative kind of things, okay, or maybe some kind of positive things, or we'll be comparing India with other countries also, right? So other side of the great power story, like if India really want to become a great power, so what are the other things that that India need to look upon, or to just see that okay, whether are we really into that particular zone or not, right? So despite being the fifth largest economy, so India is the fifth largest economy in the world, okay, its GDP per capita, you should memorize this fact, its GDP per capita income is that 1947, okay, 1947 dollar in 2021, okay. And if you are comparing this, Bangladesh has 2227 per capita. You see the difference, right? Not, it is not a very huge difference, but at least how could Bangladesh go ahead of India, right? This is the question. So read about the comparisons on internet, right? Was more than that of India, even though Bangladesh is only the 40th largest military in the world, and India is one of the largest military. Like India maybe like second third of I think India would be somewhere second to third or fourth largest military in the world, and Bangladesh is 40th largest military, okay, but the per capita income is ahead than India. So why, what are the reasons, right? So that we must search, right? So the argument from this comparison is well known one, okay. GDP and military strength do not equal to the well-being of the country's citizens. Means if we talk about only GDP, if we talk about only military strength, it is not going to helpful, it is not going to be very good, or the well-being for a country's citizens, means for the people of India. So these two things should not only be taken into consideration, right? That only GDP should be good and the military strength should be good, then the country will be like wow kind of situation. No. But at the same time, the well-being of a country's population does not equal to the gross material power. Means it is not that okay, that one country should be like very very good and the per capita income should be like very very huge, right? Only then country will be good. That a state can bring to bear in its foreign and security policies, right? Because if you have like huge per capita income, it is not going to ensure that your foreign policy and security policies would be at best, right? So the mixture of everything, right? So we need to balance the things, right? We need to see that why Bangladesh is ahead of us, right? So we should learn the lesson also. So that is why it is being talked about the other side of the great power story, right? So India is also beset. India is also actually beset, or in the, or like lot of actually problems with major infrastructural and governance issues. So infrastructural issues are what, like roads, railways, ports, airports. Like India's Well, like, so many ports India has, like so many ports India has, but huge crowd in the, like huge crowd in the airports, if you see, right? So to manage that huge crowd, right, so that is kind of structural, right, infrastructural issues, right, and governance issues. The corruption is there, right, the corruption is there, so there is a huge issue, right? So these kind of issues are also there, so India has to take these kind of issues into account, right? And ease of doing business may have improved, so ease of doing business has improved, okay, that is fine, may have improved, but starting a business without a bribe, bina ghus diye, right, starting a business without a bribe is still not easy, right? It is not easy in India to start a business without paying a bribe, right? A few days of rain brings the national capital to its knees. Like you must have seen that rain has happened, the excessive rain has happened in the Delhi, and the national capital is submerged completely, right? It has become a Venice, right, where all the actually boats and steamers are running, right? You see that water system is not really well, so India has to look domestically that what is wrong in its country, right, and then starts playing the global role, right? So year after year, year after, like, every single year it happens, like one year happens, another year it doesn't happen, then the next year again it happens, right? Regional issues, so regional issues like what, and the caste issues like Hindu Muslim, and the regional issues and ethnic issues like this, the Methi and the Kuki community that is happening in the Manipur, so ethnic issues are happening, religious divisions, Hindu Muslim divisions are happening, and that are actually very deep in India, right? And actually the region like the Bodo land, we want the Bodo land, we want Maratha land, right? And I know actually these kind of cessationist movements are also going on in India, right? And the caste like SC STs and the minorities, they are subjugated, right? If somebody actually from the ST community, if somebody wants to actually ride a ghodi, okay, and go to a barat, right, and go to his barat only, so he's actually not allowed just to sit on that godi and go for a barat. Why? Because the upper caste people doesn't like it. That why this lower caste people, so actually caste kind of systems are there, ethnic violence that you can see which is happening in the Manipur, religious division like Hindu Muslim people are like intolerance is happening, right? And regional issues like the regionalism where somebody demands for the Bodo land, like the separate Bodo land, and we want separate Maratha land. So these kind of issues are also there in India. So India has to set its home first in order, right? After that it will start looking outward or play the role in the international politics, right? So India's domestic challenges will continue to distract the attention of its policy leaders from attending to global problems. So these are India's domestic challenges, right? One, two, three, four. So these are the India's domestic challenges in this particular paragraph we are talking about, right? So here the author wants to say that these domestic challenges will continue, means this will keep on running, right? To distract the attention, right? Means actually the political leaders in India will not be able to focus, okay, will not be able to focus from attending the global problem. Means what are the global, like the Russia and Ukraine problem. So if the Indian politicians are embattled or like completely struggling with the domestic problems, how an Indian politician would be able to focus on the global issues which are like the Russia and the Ukraine crisis, how to solve that, right? We have to first solve this rain water which is clogged actually in the Delhi, right? So that is why the author is saying, Mr. Mr. Happy Mon Jacob is saying that we should be focusing on the domestic issues also first, right? So this happens, okay? So now for the Indian politicians, foreign policy is a luxury he or she cannot afford. So that was, so actually because of these issues, because of these domestic issues, because of these domestic, I am repeating over and over again so that and Hindi medium aspirants could understand things well, right? And if English medium student wants to listen or enjoy, so that is also well and good for me, right? So for the Indian politician, foreign policy is a luxury he or she cannot afford, right? So for the Indian politician, so if Indian politician, if any prime minister of India, okay, like so if he or she is completely struggling with actually solving these problems, then how could you think that this person would be able to think or shed his energy towards the global issues, right? So this becomes a luxury. The foreign policy we'll look at later, man. I know so many domestic challenges are there in India, so first I need to focus on these kind of things, right? So this is what is happening, okay? One of the most pressing concerns means one of the most important concerns or the issues for India's political class is to reduce poverty. So if somebody asks you, so, okay, suppose you are actually walking on the road, if any media person asks you what is the pressing concern for India, okay, so you should say that reduce the poverty, okay, and improve the well-being of the millions of Indians living under the poverty line, okay, and bring the people from the poverty line upside, right? Okay, a task that is bound to divert its attention from serious external engagement. So if we are able to reduce the poverty, right, so people would be very industrialist, right, people would be having money. So when the people would be having money, so they'll be focusing about their individual development more and more, right, so they'll be involved in a kind of, actually good mindset, right, so they'll be thinking about the development of country. But if the people are poor, so things will happen like the Manipur, or kind of, mob lynching, right, and casteism, and these kind of things will keep on happening. So first of all, start reducing the poverty, and after actually reducing the poverty, Indian politician will have a lot of time, right, will have a lot of time to think about the foreign kind of things, right, what is happening in the foreign policy, right, what is happening at the international stage. So then the Indian politician would be able to contribute to the Russia and Ukraine war kinds of a situation, right. So these becomes the serious external engagements, right. The serious external engagements are like what, like the Russia and Ukraine war, if you really want to contribute something into that, right. So these are the serious external engagements, right. Otherwise, if you're not reducing the poverty, you will be completely flooded with these kind of actually problems, right, and will not be able to give your time or attention to the external issues or the international issues, right. So when the political class gives scant attention, when the political class gives scant attention, scant means very little, right. When the political class means all the leaders of India gives very little attention to the country's foreign policy, okay, foreign policy and security policy, as it usually happens in the case of India. Means mostly it has been seen that the India and like India is not able to focus on the foreign and security policies as much as it should focus, right. It is managed by career bureaucrats, means all the IAS officers, okay, means when the foreign people, means when the Indian politicians are not involved, okay. So when the India's politicians are not involved in the foreign policy and security policy issues, then all the bureaucrats, means all these bureaucrats, IAS officers, senior IAS officers, who usually do not diverge from the precedents, means what has already happened. So they just follow one line only, okay, that we will not take so much risk and all that, okay, and avoid taking even remotely, means very little risky decisions, means they just don't take any risk to take any decision. They said, okay, just means if we are getting only 1% benefit, okay, fine, but we are not going to take risk to enhance the benefit to 1 to 5 or 10%, right. So they'll be doing things very slowly, and as they has been established or as they had happened in the past, right. So means no development would be happening on the front of the foreign and security policy, right. So this is what the meaning of this. Now without political, now here the author wants to say that the how the politicians or the political class is important for the foreign policy and the security policy of India, right. So for instance, so foreign policy tend to be an autopilot. So that means like if you set things on autopilot, that you don't have to drive the car, it has set on the automatic mode. So India's foreign policy and security policy is running on the automatic mode, right. That okay, whatever has happened, whatever has just actually fix few points, and it will be happening on that point, right. So no actually contribution from the Indian politicians is happening, because they are actually struggling to solve the domestic problems, right. So here the presence of a weak economy, so India has a weak economy, also tempers the Indian elite. So Indian elite means Indian politicians, right, appetite for external engagement. So appetite means kind of ambition, right. If any politician of India, like suppose the prime minister, if he really wants to serve, or if he really wants to go to abroad and to solve the international issues, but India is happening, like India is actually going through a weak economy, right. So India's economy is not that good. So these kind of things are there in his mind, so he's very tense at that point, right. So actually that is why these things just hinder that things actually checks, or actually not allow him to go outside, right. So that is why Indian politicians should be free of setting these kind of domestic issues first, and then go to the foreign, right. So over time the appetite has grown. So here now you can easily have kind of frame like 2014, since the Narendra Modi government has come, right. So you see that the foreign policy is blooming like anything, right. So over time the appetite means, over time the ambitions means the ambitions that I want more and more, right. So, but that does not change the fact that the political class can only allocate so much attention to the foreign and security policies if the country is economically weak and large sections of the population are living in poverty. So the simple meaning from here to here is that poverty has to be reduced. If the poverty will be reduced, then the people will be in a good state of situation, right? And then the prime minister or the other politicians of India would be able to focus onto the foreign issues, right? So this is what the meaning of this. More so means apart from that, okay, a weak domestic economy, right, means at the domestic, like within the India, if the economy is weak, it prevents the politicians from allocating adequate resources for the foreign policy objective, right? If you want to do something at the foreign front, you'll have to allocate some budget also for that, right? Ministry of External Affairs, you'll have to do a lot of kind of money supply into that particular department or the ministry, right? So if you are so money supply is required, right? Means allocating the resources, okay, sufficient resources you have to give to the external affairs ministry, right? For instance, the parliamentary committee, so this is very very important, you should take a note of that, right? For instance, the parliamentary committee on external affairs 2022-2023 has observed that, means parliamentary committee on external affairs has told, okay, has told that despite an increase in the overall budget allocation of the government of India, the allocation made to Ministry of External Affairs in percentage terms has witnessed a downward turn during the last 5 years, last 4 years, 2022-2023. It is only 0.44% of the government of India's overall budget. Like if government of India has 100 crore rupees of budget, right? So how much they are giving to the Ministry of External Affairs or for the foreign policy? 0.44, means not even 1%. Not even 1% of India's budget is dedicated towards the national foreign policy, means the international foreign policy that India is going to be play a very big role, right? So see that, so this is one negative, right? So thus you can take note of that, right? The committee further said, the committee further means this same committee, this which is that committee, the parliamentary committee, okay? So the same committee further said, means it is said that we do not find such allocation in consonance, means in consonance means in relation with, okay, we do not find such allocation in consonance with the country's rising aspirations, okay, we do not find such allocations in consonance with the country's rising aspirations and glowing global stature. So in nutshell, in a short, in a crux, what committee is saying that we are not finding these allocations, means whatever the means for 0.44% budget you have given, right? 0.44%. So this is not sufficient for the rise of the country, okay, means we are having a lot of aspirations, like we want to do more and more, but to do and more we not some kind of a huge amount of money actually you want, but that kind of resources are not being educated, okay, and the growing global stature and the way India's stature is growing globally, so we have to have certain amount of money to actually back, right? But we are not, so actually fund is okay, fund allocation is very very important over here to increase that, right? Perhaps the country is simply unable to do that, right? So it seems that the country is not able to do that, right? Country is unable to do that or not able to do that, right? The combined effect of such domestic challenges is likely to be a political elite distracted by more immediate domestic considerations rather than the grandeur of the great power status, right? So if domestic challenges are not, if domestic challenges are not redressed or not addressed properly, then the political elite, that means then the prime minister or any political leader or the foreign external affairs minister, right, he will be distracted, right? He will not be focused, okay, he will not be focused on the grandeur, means all the kind of great power status, okay, until and unless the domestic issues are not solved, right? So first of all, domestic issues needs to be solved so that the time, amount and energy we can focus onto the external kind of things or the international power politics we can kind of invest into that, right? Now embrace power, what is the meaning of embrace power? Okay, now we'll understand, we'll read and we'll understand, right? So this is very very important paragraph, this we can use as the found of the conclusion also, right, in the form of conclusion, right? So should India, so now everything has been completely told about the author now so far, okay, so now the author is telling that what India needs to do, right, how to come out of this dilemma, how to come out of this conclusion, how to come out of this conclusion, right? So this is we are going to understand here. So should India refrains means abstains, means come out of or to leave, right? Should India refrain from shaping the global order, means should India completely abstain itself, that okay, we are not going to play any role, into the global order, okay, in the international politics we are not going to play any role until its domestic challenges are resolved, right? Until we are not able to solve all these kind of domestic challenges like the GDP per capita, how Bangladesh is ahead than us, right? And the military strength we have to improve, right? And this kind of this regional issues, the caste issues, the ethnic issues, and the religious kind of divisions. So we need to just, and the infrastructure issues and the governance issues, right? And the pressing, actually poverty issues. So if means until and unless India is not able to find out the solutions of the domestic challenges, India is not going to serve, right? So it is the one question, right? As the pessimist would have it. So means all the negative people will say like that India should focus only on the domestic kind of things first and then go to the international, right? But this should not happen. or should India continue to assert its place in the world and aspire to be a great power? Or should India continue to assert, or India should do both things together, like setting the domestic things also into kind of an order, and India should start doing things better in the internet, means both things should go together, right? So now which option should we choose? Okay, as an aspirant, what option should we choose? Okay, like suppose if this question comes as it is into the examination, so you should answer like this. Okay, here the answer, I'll be telling you which point you need to take, right? So even though India's domestic inabilities will continue to moderate its ability to influence, even though India's domestic inabilities, so domestic inability means domestic challenges like the poverty, caste, religion, okay, region and ethnicity, okay, and religious kind of divisions and bribes, the governance issues, the infrastructural issues, and the GDP, how much GDP we are able to achieve, okay, and how much target do we set, and the military strength, and the Bangladesh, how Bangladesh are, right? So these are the domestic inabilities that India has, right? So we'll have to set these things in order first, right? So even though India's domestic inabilities will continue to moderate, so these will continue means within one day we will not be able to solve them, right? So let them continue and do all these things whatever we can do in our capacity. Okay, so even though India's domestic inabilities will continue to moderate its ability to influence the world order, okay, benefiting or befitting of its size and ambition, okay, so we should keep on actually doing all these things, right? Being unwilling to engage and shape it would be a strategic blunder. So if we are keep on facing, if we are keep on focusing on the domestic issues and not focusing on the international, it would be a strategic blunder, it would be a very big blunder, means more than a mistake, right? So we should do both things together. So if in interview this question is asked, or if in the international relation this particular question is asked, then you should know that strategic blunder, India should avoid this strategic blunder, means India should do on the domestic front also, India should try to do as much as it can, whatever the resources it has in hand, on the international arena also, right? So both the things should go in hand, right? So if you are not a rule shaper, so what the author is saying, that if you are not a rule shaper, like if you are not a member where the rules are being shaped for the world, right? So that means you are the rule taker. So whatever the world makes rule, okay, like the USA making the rule, and if you are not actually anticipating, or actually actually going, and some kind of we can say the participation is not there from India side, right? Then whatever the rule US made, India has to follow. So rule shaper, so it is become a rule shaper, means lawmaker, not to acceptor. Okay, so India has no choice but to influence and shape the global order to meet its foreign policy objectives, which would have significant impact on economic growth. So if India is interested, if India is enthusiastically, analytically, if India is helping and going into the international world, right, and doing its bit, okay, then the India's economic growth will improve for sure, because India would be able to make such kind of actually policies and in its favor, right? So and the security environment in India also will get better, right? And geopolitical issues and the geo-economic interest and the geo-economic interest will also get increased, right? So India's security issues will also be good there, right? So India has to anticipate, India has to participate in the international relation and play its global power role, right? Be it debt restructuring, climate change, so climate change, okay, global trade on non-proliferation means the nuclear weapon should not be made further, okay? So India should be part of the NPT, okay, and global trade, right? Whatever the global trade happen, like we have the deficit with the China, so we should improve it, right? Climate change, right? 1.5 degree, we should not let it move ahead, right? And the Paris conference, so you should use these examples over here, okay? And the debt restructuring, like the IMF, if we are taking any kind of loan from the IMF or the World Bank, right? So which kind of debt restructuring it is doing, right? So if we are involved in international relations, all the platforms, whatever is happening, the meetings and all these things, at least we would be getting to know that what is happening at the India. So in a way, it will be helping India's environmental growth, right? Economic growth, security environment, geopolitical and geo-economic interest also, right? So New Delhi can ill afford to let someone else make the rules and abide by them. So New Delhi would never want that somebody else would make the rule for the Delhi and Delhi should follow them, right? So Delhi would always want that I will be making the rule for myself and I will be following it, right? Whether it likes it or not, India's impact on the world order is a given. So whether India likes it or not, India's impact means India's influence on the world order is there, right? And in a globalized world, the relationship between the state's global influence and domestic growth is an unavoidable one. So in a globalized world, so right now we are a globalization, right? We are living in the era of globalization, right? All the markets are open, right? We are interacting with the world economies, right? We are doing so many businesses actually together with so many worlds, right? With so many countries, right? So the relationship between a state's global influence right? And domestic growth is an unavoidable one. So India should do things together at the domestic front and at the international front also, right? So India's ability to shape international politics. So India's ability means the capacity that India has to shape the international politics, right? To shape means to help or to intervene into the international politics, that is what must be, right? So must also be a reflection of its domestic context. So first India should actually fix all these kind of issues like the Manipur kind of crisis. Only then actually India would be able to say at the international level that, see, we have these kind of issues and we have set these things into order, so we have the experience. Okay, only then you'll be able to tell to other countries. Now then they will follow you, right? And its global engagement must necessarily be geared towards the well-being of its people. And whatever India should do at the global level, it should be focused, it should be necessarily focused toward the well-being of its people. I mean, it should be in the benefit of the Indian people first, right? Neither is strategic autarky an option. Okay, strategic autarky means economic independence, means we have to have an independence in the economic sense, but this is not possible. Okay, so we have to interact with the world, right? So that means we'll have to go international, we'll have to be a global one, right? Nor is India's assertiveness on the global stage a matter of nationalist hubris and officious vanity. So officious vanity means proud, okay, command that we say. Okay, so that economic independence is also not an option for India, right? That, okay, we'll be doing all the kind of things in our country, we'll be producing and consuming, so we are not going to do any business or market or any kind of economic or financial kind of transactions with the other countries. So this is not an option, we have to do that, okay, because we are living in a globalized world, and India's assertiveness on the global stage is a matter of nationalistic hubris, right? So India's assertiveness, that means the power that India has these days at the global stage, right? So we shouldn't be thinking that it's a very great thing, very big thing, right? We should not be proudy, we should be very humble by thinking that, yes, okay, we are enhancing our powers and we are being recognized by the entire world, right? So these kind of things we need to understand, right? So this is a very, very important editorial. All civil services aspirants must read it and understand it, right? And write a short note and send on the WhatsApp number that is given on the channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.